Hi, my name is Charlotte, and I was a very hardworking teenager. My life was always about studying and part-time jobs, but that all totally changed because of a boy. I was on my way to the principal's office to talk about the college scholarship that I'd applied for when I saw a boy from my class, Mason. His mother was there too, and she was yelling at him on their way out of the office. The week before, his dad had been here with him, and now it was his mom. He'd probably got another detention because of his failing grades, or the pranks he was usually pulling at school. Not that I was a stalker or anything, but I had always been intrigued by him. His mom was very angry, but he seemed happy because there was a smile on his face. Why? He was popular in our school because he was pretty talented and athletic, and he also had a playful nature. He had won multiple awards in special events where parents were expected to attend, but I noticed that he was always alone. That night, while I was on my night shift as a cashier at the local movie theater, I got a strange call. "Hello, is this Miss Charlotte?" a familiar older woman's voice asked. "Yes, that's me," I answered. "I saw you reply to our online ad for a private teacher, and we want to hire you for our son. We're wondering if you could start right away, like tomorrow." I was shaking with excitement all of a sudden. I was so happy that she wanted me despite me only having 5 months of experience from last year. I asked for the address, and what she gave me sounded familiar. It was close to our school anyway. I shared the good news with my mom, but she didn't seem particularly pleased. "You should enjoy being a teenager sometimes, Charlotte. Learn how to quit if things start to stress you out." I just smiled at my mom's concern. The next day, I finally arrived at the address the woman gave me. I pressed the doorbell, and unexpected faces appeared at the door. My face turned white as a sheet when I realized that they were Mason's parents. Did that mean I was going to be my crush's private teacher? I had a funny feeling in my stomach. My hands started to shake. The thought of being in a room alone with Mason gave me confusing emotions. I was terrified, excited, and anxious all at once. I'd never talked to him in my entire high school life because why would he notice me? I wasn't like his girlfriend Mandy, who was the definition of a goddess. Each session was planned to run for 2 hours every weekend. Mason is a stubborn boy. He hates to study, so please do everything you can. We're counting on you, his mother said. He needs to graduate and go to college. I can't wait for him to help us in one of our businesses, his father added. And I was already feeling the butterflies in my stomach from the pressure and other things. After finalizing everything, his mother led me to the study room to start my first teaching session. He wasn't in there yet, so I took some time to calm myself. I gasped when he suddenly appeared from behind me. He'd clearly just got out of the shower because he looked so fresh in his white t-shirt, and his hair was still wet. "Hey there, you must be the tutor," he asked. It was officially our first conversation in my entire life, and I tried my best to speak. "Yes, I am. So, shall we start? You look familiar," he said with narrowed eyes as he leaned his face closer to mine. I felt my heartbeat in my eardrums as I leaned away from him. "You don't recognize me?" A light bulb seemed to appear above his head. "Oh, right, you're that girl who always sits in the last row." "Yes, that's me. I'm Charlotte, in case you didn't know my name." I had to get a grip and be like a proper teacher. "Okay, Charlotte, but before we get started, let me tell you something." "What is it?" "I can make your job easier by doing nothing. Just do your thing there." "No, Mason, your parents are paying me to teach you, so I have to do my job," I said firmly. "I won't tell my parents anything, and you shouldn't either," he said as he put on his AirPods and started playing on his phone. Unbelievable! We finished the 2-hour session without me doing anything, and I felt guilty. Before going home, Mason's parents asked me how the session went, and I felt terrible lying. I didn't sleep well that night as I was brainstorming how to convince him to study. I was more anxious the next day. They reminded me to do my best because they wanted Mason to pass his final exams. As soon as I opened the study room door, a hand immediately pulled me in. "What do you think of this? Do you think a girl would like this as a gift?" Mason opened a jewelry box in front of my face and revealed a diamond bracelet and necklace. I was speechless for a moment. He was so generous to give me a gift as expensive as that. "It depends if the girl is into material things, Mason. But yeah, they're beautiful," I said. "Thank goodness, I'm kind of nervous right now. Today is me and my girlfriend's first anniversary," he revealed with sparkling eyes. "So this is him as a boyfriend. Ugh, Mandy is so lucky to have him." He opened the window, and I was surprised when he pulled someone in from outside. It was Mandy. How in the world did she manage to get up here? "Hi, Charlotte," Mandy greeted me, and before I could even reply, the two of them started kissing right in front of me. "Happy anniversary, babe." This is my gift for you." Mason then gave her the jewelry box, and her eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "Oh my God, this is beautiful!" She looked so happy with the gifts that she put them on right away and started taking selfies from every angle. She busied herself inspecting the diamonds and taking pictures of them to post on her Instagram and Snapchat, while Mason just stood there looking at her. "Let's go to your bedroom, babe. I need to change my clothes and touch up my makeup for more pictures," she said. I cleared my throat before butting in. "Excuse me, guys, but just a little reminder that we're having a private teaching session right now. We have a math quiz tomorrow, and you have to pass it this time, Mason." I gave him a stern look. "Don't worry about that, Charlotte. I can pass it," he said confidently. Mandy then dragged him out of the room. I wanted to scream in frustration. I wanted to tell his parents what was going on, but what if he got mad at me? Why was he like this? I was sure he could do better, and why would he allow Mandy to treat him like that? She was all over his gift instead of him for their anniversary. He was so visibly disappointed. The next day at school, while I was on my way to our first class, Julia, a particularly mean classmate, blocked my way in the hallway. "Hey nerd, I want to copy your answers later for the exam," she demanded, which surprised me. I mean, why would I do that? This girl had bullied me almost every day. "That's not right, Julia. You should study and be prepared. That's your responsibility as a student." To my surprise, she suddenly shoved me, which sent me sprawling on the floor. "Selfish nerd," she yelled at me before walking away with her friends. I turned onto my side and saw a hand offering to help me. "Stop sulking and get up." It was Mason, who then pulled me up. We then walked together to our first class for the first time in my 4 years in high school. And my disappointment in him from last night was replaced with excitement. My day ended with his parents calling me, informing me that I needed to do my job better because Mason had failed the math exam that day. Our next session came and I found him sleeping on the couch in the study room. I tried to wake him up, but he didn't even stir. Should I tell his parents this time? He was overdoing this already. "Come on, Mason, wake up. You have to study and learn, please? I need to do this. I need this job and I need to pay our bills and school expenses all by myself. Come on, Mason, you have to help me." I was begging, but he looked so tired. I was running out of patience already. "Okay, fine. Tomorrow, if you still won't behave, I'll tell your parents whether you like it or not," I said, which finally woke him up. He got up and without a word, he grabbed my arm and dragged me to the window. "Mason, wait, what are you doing?" "You have to come with me." "No, we have to study, and there's no way I'm sneaking out through that window." "You don't have a choice." I screamed as he pushed me out of the window, but I landed on a safety net below. That answered my question from last time. I had no other option but to follow him into his car, or his parents would notice us. He started driving, and my heart was pounding hard against my chest. "You're crazy! What if they catch us?" I should have been stricter with him. I couldn't let him do things his way all the time. Stop worrying about the world even just for a minute, okay? He convinced me, and all I could do was lean back in defeat. Minutes later, we stopped by a familiar house. "Wait a minute, this is Julia's house. What are we doing here?" "Get out of the car and come with me," he said with a naughty grin on his face. He opened his trunk, grabbed some rolls of toilet paper, and started throwing them on the trees in front of the house. "What are you doing? We'll both get in trouble, Mason." "Julia deserves it for bothering you." It took me almost a minute to process his intentions, and moments later we were both giggling as we threw more toilet paper over the trees in their car. Did you know that a Japanese horror novelist called Koji Suzuki wrote an entire novel on a single roll of toilet paper? I blurted out a random fact from something I read a month ago. "That must have been an interesting novel," he replied. Someone must have noticed us because a part of the house lit up. We rushed back to his car and he immediately dashed off. My stomach hurt from laughing and from the thrill. "That was cool," I said while panting. "Sometimes you just have to let loose and own the world, Charlotte." His words struck me and I was quiet for a moment. "And now it's time for a party," he announced. "What party?" He told me that his old friend was having an epic party in the countryside and he needed to join. Unfortunately, his car got stuck in the middle of the road. "Great. We're in big trouble now, Mason. Your parents aren't going to know where we are." There was no signal, so we decided to wait for a car to ask for help, but an hour passed and no one came. I settled in the back of his car and gazed up at the stars. I couldn't remember the last time that I had been able to relax like this without thinking about my responsibilities. Mason saw me lying there and joined me. We were both quiet for the first few minutes, but then I realized that it was finally my chance to ask him questions about his parents. He seemed reluctant at first, but he eventually spoke. "Their world revolves around their jobs and our businesses. I'm non-existent at home. They only notice me when I do stupid things, so it's useless to be an achiever at this point." So he just wanted attention from his parents. This side of Mason softened my heart, and for some reason, he became more physically attractive in my eyes too. We continued to talk about life and our families until we finally got sleepy. Morning came, and we were finally able to get help and return to the city. His parents called him, and since the call was on loudspeaker, I heard everything. Can you please stop disappointing us, Mason? We're tired of this. Your teacher is useless too. What he said next caught me off guard. Don't drag her into this, Mom. It was all my fault, okay? I tricked her into coming with me when all she wanted was for us to study. And please, about disappointing you, what's new? You only notice me when I get in trouble. It was the first time that I'd seen him that mad. He then ended the call and was quiet for the rest of the ride. It was Friday night, and my boss at the theater told 3 other staff members and me that it would be our last week because they were cutting costs. So I went home crying and frustrated. The next day at Mason's house, I had expected him to change his behavior this time because of what had happened last week. But he was busy preparing a prank for his friend. Remembering what his mother said about me, my patience had finally run out. I slammed my hand against the table loud and shouted at him. You should study because other people out there are working so hard to go to school and get their diploma. You can blame your parents all you want, but at some point in life, you have to take responsibility for your actions, Mason. This stunned him for a few moments. To my surprise, he finally sat down beside me and started flipping the pages of my book. And for the first time, we finally had a decent teaching session. He tried to listen, but I felt that he was preoccupied. He didn't even pass the short quiz that I gave him after our discussion. But at least it was progress. I went home satisfied. It was my last day at the movie theater, and I saw him buying tickets from the other booth with Mandy. After the movie, I noticed that Mason was alone, looking like he was about to cry. I left my booth and asked him how he was doing. Mandy and I broke up. We have been having trouble lately, and I was trying to get her back, but now I should probably give up. Maybe you two aren't meant to be together, I comforted him. An idea then came into my head. You know what? There's this simple, hard-working, and down-to-earth girl I know. I'll introduce you to her if you solve all the challenging problems that I'll be preparing for you. I smiled when I saw the determined look on his face. Over the next few days at school, Mason and I became closer than ever before. He also helped me find another part-time job. As finals approached, I pushed him harder to study more with me, even at school. I convinced him to be more open about the things that he couldn't understand so I could more effectively teach him. To everyone's surprise, Mason ended up in the top 10 highest scorers next to my name, and I was so proud of him. Out of pure happiness, he hugged me so tight he almost crushed my ribs. During lunch, he joined me at my table. So where's this girl that you were talking about? He said. I almost choked on my spaghetti. I was actually referring to myself, I playfully told him as I winked, and he burst out laughing. You tricked me, he said, and we couldn't control our laughter. Deep down, I was hoping he'd date me, but my little fantasy was shattered when he took Mandy to the prom. It looked like they'd gotten back together. Oh well, having a boyfriend wasn't my priority, so although I was heartbroken for a week, I moved on. Graduation came, and I was so happy to see that Mason's parents were able to attend this time. They also looked so happy as they watched their son receive his diploma on stage. While listening to his graduation speech, my heart started racing when I heard him mention my name. And to Charlotte, a classmate of mine, and my private teacher. I just want to thank you for inspiring and teaching me, and for being my study buddy. I will never forget you, Charlotte. You will always have a special place in my heart. When everything was over and I began to leave, I felt someone tap my shoulder. You're already leaving? He asked. Yeah, I'm not exactly the resting type. For a few moments, we stayed silent. Then he sighed. I just want to thank you for talking sense into me, and also apologize for making things difficult. Not able to form words, I just smiled and nodded at him before leaving.